gonna be a different year. This is not the place for fear. I've got a job to do.
Especially Graham, who's hugging me so tight I can hardly breathe. The fair Gwen is hugging Freak and she's saying, I told you to stay in that car, didn't I? Didn't I? Freak, he's looking over her shoulder at me, looking over Graham's shoulder, and he gives me the thumbs up as she carries him away. Freak the mighty, he says. Freak the mighty strikes again.
That's absolutely my most favorite part of the entire book is that chapter right there. So I have one question for you guys based off of that reading. Who is the hero? Who saves who in this chapter? Okay, I just got done reading that very intense scene. Who's the hero? August?
Well, there's a few people that saved. Freak saved Max, and Max saved Loretta.
Okay. How about you, Emma? You can see that's my question right here. Who's the hero?
Well, so Freak, so he had a bunch of cops to come to the room where they were, and then Freak made Cocaine think that it was
Sulfuric?
yeah, that room. And the squirt gun. So then Max also did save Loretta, but then Max the little consequence saving her. But I think mostly Freak was the
Freak's your main hero?
yeah.
All right. Cara, how about you? Who do you think is the hero? Tell me more. And by the way, guys, I'm recording now because in block 1, it didn't work. So we're just going to record right now as we read. Just so you guys know. So you want your best answers. Well, just so you guys know, too, Freak says it's sulfuric acid. What he puts in it is soap, vinegar, and curry powder. It's kind of like a homemade version of pepper spray. You guys ever heard of pepper spray?
Yeah.
Curry powder comes from that same, like the whole idea of capsaicin, which is what makes pepper spray burn. So Freak kind of made his own homemade version of like a pepper spray. So it definitely would still burn and sting. I mean, I've never been hit with pepper spray, but I've seen enough TV and cop shows to know what happens when people get hit with pepper spray. And that's what would have happened still. If Freak got the ingredients right, Killer Kane's eyes definitely would have burned. Not like if it was sulfuric acid, though. So there was a little bit of trickery going on, like Cara said. But there was some legitimate, like, this stings going on with my eyes. Keep going, Cara. I interrupted you. All right, Xander, your hand popped up. My question's about who's the hero.
Well, Freak's obviously the hero. He used all of his Christmas presents and stuff to save Loretta and Max from the other team. But
Okay.
if it wasn't for Max, Loretta would be dead.
If it weren't for Max, Loretta could be dead. There was a point in this reading where it looked like Loretta could be killed, Max could be killed, Killer Kane could make an escape and get out of there. That was his plan.
And Freak would have died.
And Freak, yeah, Freak, then certainly things could have gone bad for him too if no one else was around to support him. So, yeah, there was a point where Killer Kane was going to live up to his name and make his getaway. But things were very different by the end. All right, I want to hear from you guys what questions that you have about this chapter. So, before we do that, just let's review. Today we're doing what chapters? Chapters 21 and 22. Okay, and remember, you guys are on alert about your kid blogging. I know that everyone in this room but one person got their quiz done. I didn't check all your kid blog posts, but you guys know I want to track and see that you guys are on there and that you guys are blogging, and you guys know now how that's going to be used for me when I have to go to grading, right? Remember, Xander, I'm not grading each individual post. What I'm doing is I'm taking them collectively to look to see if you've been doing your writing, and then I'm looking at the quality of your writing. So a person who does 5 or 6 posts but has really, really great writing can score just as well as a person who has 12 posts, but maybe they make some mistakes in their writing. Do you see how those will balance each other out? All right, so you want to make sure that you're doing both the quantity you need to, but making sure that you do it at a good quality. All right, you guys, do we have questions? I'm going now here to Kid Blog as well. You want to start us, Emma?
Sure.
All right, Emma, I'll pull your question up so we can all see it. You guys can stay on your questions. Emma, read your question out loud.
Well, what would you do if you were in a burned out house with killer paint? And then I didn't explain because he told us to.
Yeah, that's a good question. What would you do? Are you talking before anybody shows up? It's just Max and Killer Kane in the beginning?
Yeah.
When Max is down there all by himself? All right, so good question. Answer this one, guys. What would you do if you were in the burned out house? I say really an apartment building, but the burned out apartment building with Killer Kane.
I'd be really scared which
Do you want to? How would you try to get out? Is there a specific thing you might try to do?
every time we try, the ropes would get tighter.
Uh-huh.
So it'd be really hard to try.
Okay. It would be hard. So I don't know how you do it. Keep calling on people, Emma.
I would probably try to keep my hands up so I would get out of the store. There would be like no heat or anything in the building, and it would be cold outside because it's the middle of the night.
Okay.
I would probably scream for help because
Well, you're out.
oh yeah, I forgot.
Well, see, you didn't clarify that in this one.
I mean,
So this is after the gag and before Loretta.
Well, yeah.
So, okay, see how this is a very specific moment. So you want to clarify that in your question. When Max is in the basement of the apartment building, after his mouth has been gagged, but before Loretta comes to rescue him, what'd you do if you were Max?
Yeah, I would scream for help, and then we would probably put the gag on, and then I would just
I'd take a nap.
maybe just go to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly not a good time for him to try to escape. As Kara mentioned, every time he moves, it's getting worse on his hands and feet. Screaming out, he really can't do right now because he's got the gag on his mouth. Running away, it's like there's no good option. So the best option might be to do what Emma said, take a nap. But maybe you want to get your rest now because you're going to need to make some kind of effort later to try to escape.
Yeah, you build up your energy while you're napping.
Maybe.
Probably if what if Max or you are like you move when you're sleeping.
I'll tell you what, when you want to ask a question, you write it on Kid Blog and we will all answer that question. Is that question on Kid Blog? Okay, we can't answer it then. Who's got another question? All right, look at me. When you want to write them on Kid Blog. Write your questions on Kid Blog so we can answer them. Do your homework, all right? August, I'm going to go to your question. You ask it out loud.
Okay. What would you do if Killer Kane started choking? Explain.
Okay, it's your job to call.
Pausing. No?
I don't even know what to. I'd probably be freaked out and scared for my life.
Okay?
If somebody was choking me while I was tied up.
Not someone.
Well, if my father
Your dad,
was
yeah.
choking me while I was tied up. I'd be scared out of my life.
And
Well, since he was what I would do is, well, since Loretta already, like, got his arms and his, like, ankles undone, so he'd still be able to walk, but he should have his, like,
Yeah, his hands and feet are, his hands are definitely free. I think his feet were free too at this point.
yeah, but he was very numb.
Right, he was having a hard time moving, but his,
I would, like, kick him or something like that, or just try moving his arms away from my neck so he doesn't die.
how are you, Carl? What would you do?
There was not a lot I can do. I feel like really scared of like really disappointed.
Would you go out fighting though? Would you go out kicking and screaming and fighting, or would you just lay there and let him choke you?
Well, I would try to stop it, but I feel really disappointed.
Okay,
It takes a lot for your dad to try to choke you.
definitely. What are you guys doing over there? I keep seeing you guys are always playing with something. All right. Yeah, I don't know why you're playing with it. You're the teacher. When the question's yours, and so now we all follow you as the model.
Because, like, I've never been choked before. It's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you wouldn't be able to breathe. I can't. I mean, you could get a little bit better. But,
Okay. There's not a great answer. I mean, you fight, and then the question is, what do you do? How do you fight? You know, I would be using every ounce of my energy to be grabbing at his hands, doing something to separate his hands from my neck, using my legs and feet and knees and to kick anywhere and everywhere that I can kick him. And I would be using one word, help, or Loretta. Because remember, Loretta's still right there in the room. So I'd be shouting for Loretta, Loretta, Loretta. Okay?
Yeah, she's like passed out.
Well, neither one of us is in good shape, but there's at least one other person that's still breathing here. So I'd be shouting her name as well.
Loretta could
Yeah.
find the hip
Yeah.
team on the back of the head.
And just because Max is aware that there's still cops around. Max knows there's cops.
I mean,
So yelling help, again, just to be yelling something,
wouldn't it be hard?
it would be absolutely hard. All right, let's do one more question before we read. Who hasn't gone? Cara, you haven't gone, right? All right, Cara, let's have your question.
If you were Glenn, how would you feel if you didn't know Frank would be okay? Explain.
Good question. So you're talking, again, kind of in the morning after Freak has gone off to try to go on his rescue mission. So you're putting us in the Fair Gwen's shoes. Okay, how would you react if you were the Fair Gwen there, guys? It's your question, Cara. Cara, Gwen should have a capital. Explain. And also this needs a question mark right there. So you need your question mark there. And then a space and explain. There's no E on the end of explain. Yeah, you do that in your name too. That's something, guys, on the quiz that last night. On last night's quiz, just as a heads up, that's 21 and 22. Here's 19 and 20.
Not put a cap on it.
No, but on last night's quiz, which was 19 and 20, right? Yeah. It was all multiple choice. With one short written response.
What's your name?
And I made it worth a point.
You did?
Yeah, it's worth a point. And you'd be amazed at how many people lost the point because they didn't write their name properly.
I freak quiz that we
Wait, are all of the names worth right? Like every single time?
No, just now, because I'm getting tired of you guys coming in and either not writing your name or writing your name with lowercase letters. It's a name. It's your name. Put capitals. Xander, I'm speaking and you keep interrupting me. Put capitals. So the entire quiz was all multiple choice with one short written response, which was to write your name. And again, I even write first and last using proper capitals, and people still skip that. So there's a lot of people that got 10 points off because they didn't write their name properly.
Wow.
All right, back to what we were doing. Sorry. Tangent. we were answering Kara's question, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Kara, take us back to your question.
If you were glad, how would you feel if you didn't know if you
No, this. Oh, wait. Yeah. So, guys, answer this question.
Well,
You can call on people, Kara.
since Freak went letting a couple. Okay. What are we talking about?
It's a good question.
We're talking about like when he went in to go to work, and they're talking about when he went to the conference.
It's a good question. It's the exact same thing that we had an issue with your question. You have to be very specific. 'Cause we don't know what part of the chapter you're talking about. Are you talking about when Freak somehow gets out of the car and goes into the apartment building? Or are you, like, when are you talking about? Because it's a tough one to answer.
It's not out of the car, it goes in front of
If I were when I'd be terrified because you know that there's a killer in there, and
Don't call on me till she's done. As a mother, I think I'd be upset with the cops. Like, guys, you're cops. He was in your care. You let him get away from you? He's a 12-year-old boy with a disability. Come on, guys.
he even walked over to there.
Actually, he's 13. Didn't he turned 13? So I think I would be, that's kind of a slip up on, because Andrew, you like to interrupt. It's kind of a slip up on the police officer's part. But I think Kevin's smart. We knew Kevin would do something. Kevin can't just sit by and let adventure happen in front of him and not do anything about it. If you want to say something, raise your hand. You have to just do it the appropriate way. Yeah, Xander?
I think it's a pretty good cop. Because they weren't paying attention.
Okay. All right. Some good questions, guys. We got to pass out today's graphic organizer, and we're going to begin doing today's reading. All right. Today, it is chapter 21 and 22. We got almost 15 minutes to read. All right.
Very good.
Tonight's quizzes also, I believe, are quite easy.
Yeah, that one is pretty.
And I will show you guys, just as we're about to sit down and read, as a brief review, you only have 2 quizzes left. You have this one for chapter 21 and 22. You'll see, again, 1 short written response, your name. It's worth a point. Put your name on your paper the right way, guys. This question, number 2. Killer Kane's going to be charged with several crimes. Mark all that apply. So you need to mark any and all of these that apply. So this is a checkbox one. And then the rest are multiple choice questions. There's no written response on this quiz.
Other than your. That's a lot of tabs.
The last quiz, the very last quiz. So Monday, we're going to be reading this. You'll notice there's only 3 questions. Your name. The second one, use ICER format and describe what happens to Kevin. And use ICER format and describe Max's reaction to the news about Kevin. And include your own reaction. Each one is worth 5 points for the written responses. Those are your only quizzes left coming up for Freak the Mighty. All right, so let's start reading. I'm on page 21. You guys have your graphic organizers out. It's called The Accident of Nature. Which 2 literary elements should you focus on listening for at the start of the reading? Emma?
The
Setting and? Setting and plot. And today, we're going to see something called the resolution. the resolution to one of the conflicts. These last couple chapters, August, Max has been in the midst of a giant conflict. Who's he been in conflict with? Killer Kane. Okay, he's been kidnapped. These two men, man versus man, Killer Kane versus Max, or better yet, you could word it, Max versus Killer Kane. They've been in conflict. Max doesn't want to be kidnapped. He'd rather be home, all right? This is a conflict. So, in the last chapter, that conflict kind of ends. And ultimately, who do you think won? In the last chapter, who won the conflict between Max and Killer Kane? Cara? Max won. This chapter, we're going to see what happens to Killer Kane, and we're going to learn about the aftermath of the events of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Okay, so, chapter 21. The accident of nature. We all of us had to go down to the police station, of course, where they took a bunch of pictures of the bruises on my neck, and then they insisted I needed x-rays. And so we had to go over to the hospital and get that done, and then go back to the police station again, which wore on my nerves almost as much as being kidnapped. Grim, the second time we go to the cops, he's sitting there in this room with me waiting, and he says, I can't tell you what it felt like, coming up out of the basement and seeing that double track of footprints in the snow. I knew it was him. I just knew in my heart. He kept insisting that Graham go home, which she finally did, because we were there at the police station for hours more, me telling all about it over and over, until I thought I would faint dead away if just one more person asked me what happened after I woke up in the dark and was stolen from my bed. Grim, he keeps patting me on the arm and saying, this is important, Max. Maybe this time they'll lock him up for good. That's what everybody keeps saying, that this time they've got Killer Kane where they want him, in violation of parole, in violation of a restraining order, abduction of a minor, and 2 counts of attempted murder, me and the heroic biker babe, which is what the papers took to calling Loretta Lee. The word is she's hurt pretty bad because he cracked a bone in her neck, but she'll be okay in the long run. Iggy, when I saw him that time in the hospital waiting, he was chewing a hole right through his beard. He was so worried. And it made me think he wasn't such a bad dude after all. It all goes to show, like Grimm says, that you can't always judge a book by the cover. It turns out to be a pretty weird Christmas vacation, as you might imagine. And Graham keeps fussing at me and won't let me sleep in the cellar. I don't care if he is under lock and key, she says. Grim, he says, please humor the woman. She's worried about to death. And so I sleep upstairs on the fold-out. And at night, Graham keeps checking to see if I'm there, which is a pain, but she can't help herself. And anyhow, I'm just as glad not to be alone in the down under. Freak, well, the fair Gwen just about threw a fit when she got him home because of him disobeying a direct order and sneaking away to rescue me. But after a while, she calms down, and all she does is just look at him and shake her head. What am I going to do with you, she asks. Put me up for adoption, he says. I want to go live with the Waltons. He means the TV show that keeps repeating. And of course, he's teasing her. But the fair Gwen is not amused. No more crazy adventures or dangerous quests, young man. You have to be careful, she keeps saying. Extra careful. She means the trouble he has sometimes catching his breath because of the way his insides keep growing faster than his outside, which hasn't really grown at all. Freak goes into the medical research place every few months now, which he says is a real pain, not that it actually hurts. All right, did you catch in that last paragraph? When are we? If we had to describe the setting of what's happening here, August?
Well,
Did you hear the question? I know you were tying your shoe. It says here in the chat, my question was, how do we describe the setting? because we're at the police station, and then he's back talking about the Christmas vacation, and he's talking about Grim and Graham's reaction, he's talking about the Fair Gwen's reaction, and then he says, Freak goes into the medical research place every few months now, which he says is a real pain, not that it actually hurts. Cara? This sounds, based off of the sentence, this is a while after Christmas Eve, like months later. He's kind of recapping everything that happened after Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve was a big event. Rodman Philbrick spends like 3 whole chapters all on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or maybe even 4. All right? From the time we hit chapter 15, 15. Chapters 15 to chapter 20. 5 chapters for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And now in this one chapter, he's kind of wrapping up all the time that happened after this event. So he goes into Christmas Eve in great detail. But here, because nothing exciting is happening, Rodman Philbrick, or Max, he's kind of letting you know, this is what happened after that amazing Christmas Eve. All right? So what are some of the things that happen after Christmas?
Obviously, it's going on more adventures because if one has to talk to him about it, or being careful, and also makes his anxiety go years. Hopefully, soon he's going to get his
All right, he really needs his robotic body. But again, guys, what happened after Christmas Eve? What did they have to do?
Max had to go to the police station, and he had to go to the hospital, and then go back to the police station, and then I left Umbrella and Max. They were talking about Montreal's protesting Killer King.
Yeah. Killer Kane's being charged with a lot of crimes. There are many of them that are listed. Make sure you use your book when you have to answer that question so you have the details. All right, let's keep on reading. We have about 5 minutes left. I'm middle bottom of 137, where Freak goes to the medical research place every few months now, which he says is a real pain, not that it actually hurts. Dr. Spivak says my unique status as a marvel of genetic aberration makes me an object of intense curiosity. I love the way he talks. He says in that lofty way of his, specialists from the world over are familiar with my case. What about the secret operation? I ask, when the fair Gwen can't hear us. The one where you'll get a robot body. Freak gets this very cool scientific look on his face, and he always says the same thing. The bionic research continues, my friend. The work goes on. I don't know why I keep asking, because it gives me the creeps. You'd think I could be as cool as Freak about the idea, because it's him that is going to get a new bionic body. But just thinking about it makes me want to jump up and run around. I keep telling Graham that when Freak is in the hospital for his tests, I shouldn't have to go to school because we're like a team. But she won't buy it. I know Kevin has been a great help to you, she says, but you've got a brain of your own, haven't you, dear? Yeah, right. The other thing about school that's different after Christmas vacation is how jealous everybody is that we got our pictures in the paper and on the local TV. Mrs. Donnelly in English calls us the dynamic duo, and she puts a cutout picture from the paper up on the bulletin board. Wouldn't you know, some goon put mustaches on us the very first day. Freak says he looks cool with a mustache, and he can't wait to grow one. And he makes Mrs. Denali leave the picture up. Me, I'd just as soon forget about the whole thing. I really hate the idea of having to testify at the trial and tell what really happened. But everybody says I have to if I want him locked up for the rest of his life. Which I do, especially after what he tried to do to poor Loretta, who was only trying to help. All right, so what's different about school, guys? And as I'm asking these things, these are things that can be happening here in your plot. What is different at school after Christmas? Emma?
Everybody's jealous of them because they got their picture taken on the paper and TV.
So how do you think the rest of the school is treating him?
Well,
Because before they were getting their names called, people were calling them names.
they're probably
What? They're probably what?
getting picked on because how the kid put the mustache. Well, they're getting like kind of like special treatment from the teacher because they have the picture up there. But
It did say everybody was jealous of them. Again, do you think that the events of Christmas have changed the way that they get treated at school? Cara?
Probably a little bit. Instead of being worried about their appearances, they're probably like happy they're okay because like where we left off where they went to school, they like just started to like make other friends kind of like not bully them so much.
Okay. I'd like to think that there was a big change. We don't know. We don't have any evidence, but I'd like to believe that after the events of Christmas Eve that people might start seeing them differently. But then again, Emma and Cara, both of you guys seem to think that maybe they're getting some special treatment from the adults, but the rest of the kids might still be picking on them. You mentioned someone still drew a mustache on their picture, and what do you think? August, do you think it would change for them?
Yeah, I think.
You're a kid. You know kids better than I do. How do you think those 12 and 13-year-old kids would react? Do you think they would automatically start being nicer and friendlier with them? Or do you think that they would just use this as more ammunition to pick on them?
I think they would take it and be more nice to them because Freak and Max took down like a 34-year-old man.
All right. Again, a guy with a very clear reputation of being a killer. All right. That's a good point. Who did they end up capturing? This really bad dude. So they're going to get some street cred for that, right? Xander, what do you think? Do you think these guys are going to get treated differently?
You're probably going to get treated nicer. One, some people might be scared of them.
Okay.
And two, some people might want to try to get popular off it by being their friends.
Okay. We almost finished chapter 21. You guys got about 2 pages left, not even. And then you guys are going to wrap up 22. So you guys have to finish reading from page 139 to 146. Okay, a whole 7 more pages. And make sure that you guys take your quiz, post your question. I know you guys won't be here on Monday, but my goal is to read the entire reading, the end of the book, together in class. Because I want to be reading the ending all together. All right. And then, guys, next week, believe it or not, we're going to be starting the movie. So we'll either start the movie next Tuesday before you guys are here or next Thursday. One of those 2 days, depending on how long it takes us to just wrap up these last few chapters. All right. You guys have a good one. Thank you for letting me record here in this lesson.